In the Donetsk region, the Russians don't give up their hopes of seizing Ukrainian territory. Several assaults take place every day. Here, 2 Russian armored columns were almost simultaneously heading to assault Ukrainian positions defended by Ukrainian forces of the 110th Brigade. A reconnaissance drone immediately spotted the movement, and almost immediately, artillery and kamikaze drone attacks were launched. A Russian column passes by a previously destroyed T-90 tank. Immediately, the Russians begin to do something strange. Perhaps they lost their bearings and didn't know which direction to move next. At the same time, Ukrainian forces continued to strikes. Nevertheless, the Russian tank leading the convoy chose a direction, drove through the forest belt, and continued to move. Along the way, it was hit multiple times by kamikaze drones, but that didn't stop it. In the background, another Russian armored column appears, also advancing for an assault. Russians are actively moving towards their goal. Ukrainian kamikaze drone pilots hit the tank several more times in an attempt to stop it, but to no avail, as the tank is well protected by armor and does not stop. The tank is eventually stopped. It reaches the tree line and comes to a halt there. The other 2 armored vehicles, MTLB and an armored personnel carrier with infantry that were following the tank, now turn around and start to flee the battlefield. The kamikaze drone pilot precisely hits an armored personnel carrier, damaging its armor, and it retreats. Behind it, an MTLB was also moving, but Ukrainian artillery destroyed it with a direct hit. An armored personnel carrier flees the battlefield, leaving its comrades behind. Once again, a strange situation unfolds. The Russian armored personnel carrier comes to a stop, and the soldiers jump out of the vehicle. Then, they climb back in, turn around, and head back toward the battlefield, where their column was previously destroyed. The Ukrainian pilot of the kamikaze drone makes an accurate hit. They manage to get to the forest belt, but there their armored personnel carrier is completely destroyed. Ukrainian artillerymen start firing cluster munitions. Only piles of metal remain on the battlefield from tanks and armored personnel carriers. And this is another Russian armored column. The first one is a tank, followed by 2 MTLBs with infantry. The tank tries to cross the river, but its attempts are in vain, and it gets stuck in the mud. Other MTLBs are in no hurry to repeat its fate. The tank crew gets into the MTLB. They turn around and want to retreat. Here, the Russians make another change. They leave 1 MTLB on the battlefield, get into an armored personnel carrier themselves, and all flee together. The kamikaze drone pilot catches up with them and strikes. Russian armored personnel carrier comes under fierce fire. And here, we can see how quickly the Russians abandon their armored personnel carrier and scatter in different directions. They try to hide in a ravaged Ukrainian village, but Ukrainian artillery generously shells them with cluster munitions. Kamikaze drone pilots also completely destroy the abandoned Russian equipment. And then, the pilots of the Magyar birds visited the Russian occupiers, who were hiding in a tree line. This Russian soldier hid in a construction container and tried to knock down a drone with a wooden beam. It was close, but he missed. Here, the Russians tried to escape in a buggy, but the drone was faster. And this is the Rubizh Brigade destroying Russian logistics vehicles. Russian assault troops often use motorcycles on the battlefield. They are more maneuverable, but completely unprotected from kamikaze drones. Some Russians try to hide in the thick grass. A Russian T-80 tank was hit by an anti-tank mine. It was damaged, but continued to move. Then, Ukrainian kamikaze drone pilots made several accurate hits on it. After 2 hits, the tank lost control and stopped, but the drone pilots continued to strike to completely destroy it. The tank was successfully burned. Here, yet another Russian attempt to break through the Ukrainian defense was intercepted by kamikaze drone pilots. After the enemy vehicles was destroyed, the drone pilots turned their attention to the infantrymen who were hiding among the bare trees. The drone operators also intercepted Russians who were attempting to flee the battlefield. That's all for today, my friends. Subscribe to the channel to not miss new videos. This material was prepared by Hustler. See you soon.